Good morning. You continue to listen to the early morning scoop right here on Eagle FM. Thank you so much for coming through and making us your number one radio station. And yes, we are looking at the economic impact of COVID-19, not only on the Namibian economy, but also on Namibia's biggest trading partner on the African continent, that is the most industrialized country on the continent, which is South Africa. And to just get a perspective of how COVID-19 has impacted business and economies between the two countries, I do have with me on the line director for ICE, that is Mr. Greg Saint. Good morning, Saint. Welcome to the program.
Oh, good morning, Kelvin. How are you? And thanks for having me on.
No, we're doing very well. Thank you so much for getting in touch. We just want to look at how COVID-19 has really impacted the business of ICE, but most importantly, the economy of South Africa and how that is likely to have spillover effects on Namibia as a trading partner. How has the pandemic really impacted the South African economy? And are there any hopes that the economy could pick up in the short term?
Yes, I mean, I think it's impacted undoubtedly the South African economy, but obviously that's not exclusive to South Africa. I mean, we're all dealing with a global pandemic, and obviously it affects everyone. It's just to what degree that they're affected. So again, in the UK, where I'm calling from, in the United Kingdom, we are not without our issues that have been directly derived from this very unfortunate pandemic. Looking a bit closer to South Africa, obviously our interest is that we host a exhibition for the gaming and gambling market in South Africa, and it's been running for 3 years there now. And it comes out of a brand of a very, very large exhibition that takes place in London, which is a world show, and it has over 150 or so countries that attend, and around about 40,000 visitors. So we have to have insights into the different markets to be able to see if we can come and assist them. Looking at South Africa's economy, I think obviously undoubtedly that the pandemic has pushed it a little bit deeper into the issues that it had probably in its first quarter. So I think from what I've read from our background reports, that the gross domestic profit had been falling by about 2% in the first quarter of the year in South Africa. And of course, something like a pandemic is only going to magnify that for everyone. And then that just tumbles down, sadly. So obviously unemployment rates are high and would get higher. And also I think it puts real pressure on how people are then able to budget and work their way out of a situation like that. So, yes, I don't think South Africa is much different to other economies. Undoubtedly, it's troubled in the same way as most of them are.
That's right. You're in Britain right now as we speak. South Africa trades with Britain as much as Namibia. The fact that the British economy has entered one of its deepest recessions in years, what exactly does that mean when it comes to trade between the British economy and the South African and the Namibian economy?
Well, I think the one thing that won't go away is I think all economies and more importantly the businesses that actually make those economies up are fully focused on trade. We all need to do it, and I think we all want to do it. So I think from the UK perspective, there is a real wish to trade with as many partners as they can. And of course, we have a good history with trading in the whole of Africa, and long may that be continuing for imports and exports. Obviously, it's a very difficult time at the moment. And I think it's more about looking at, the right thing to trade and the most cost-effective way to do so. So I think that really falls on respective governments to maybe break down any barriers, if there were any before, to really give businesses the best opportunity to trade. Examples of that could be, removing some red tape for imports and exports. Obviously, looking at how they support various businesses through maybe government-backed loans. In terms of our economy, yes, it's been hit Currently, we're in a position where it's very low in terms of interest rates to borrow money. So that's what our government is doing currently. But of course, the economy needs to recover because any money that's borrowed at some point does need to be paid back. So I don't see us, and from our level, just simple businesses like ourselves, we're trying to remove those barriers, and we're really keen to bring enterprise and trade to the whole of Africa.
That's right. And as you say that you're quite involved with the gambling business, quite a big industry really in South Africa and also in Britain. How has businesses like gambling, for instance, been innovative to try to survive this particular blow?
Well, I think gambling, like most businesses, has kind of quite quickly picked itself up and dusted itself down as best as it could, and innovation is already being seen. The gambling market is made up of various sectors, and depending on regulation in various countries, that dictates what forms of gambling you have. In terms of if we're looking at South Africa, obviously a big part of that is the land-based casino business. And obviously that's one of those that's probably been hit the hardest because it relies on people actually going into a resort of some description or some retail property to physically gamble, because it's enjoyable to play cards or roulette or dice, whatever your slot machines, whatever your preference is. And of course, if you're under some form of lockdown, you can't actually do that. Whereas other parts of gaming, like online gaming, has probably seen less of an impact because people have been at home and maybe they've taken the opportunity to gamble on the internet, whereas they might have done it in person previously. In terms of innovation, I think the key areas, if we were looking at land-based, is a lot of those properties have looked at ways of how they can innovate and make the experience still fun, but obviously safe for when they reopen. So some have invested in product changes where they can make machines come on and off, so it helps people stay distant when they go back in. Also, they've made some protective products to allow their customers to feel safe. They've also looked at how they serve and people order food and beverage. So they're trying to keep the core of the experience, that come along and enjoy our resort and enjoy our food and enjoy a drink, and of course the experience of having some fun while responsibly gambling, but also making safety the number one priority. So I think that's where they're trying to innovate at the moment.
That's right. I know that in Britain there have been some trials, some vaccine trials there. How close are we, as far as you're concerned, and as far as you can read the wind there in Britain? How close are we to a vaccine? Have we as yet seen any particular vaccine that has been held by the Britons?
I'm probably not the best person to ask that in terms of having no medical qualification, but obviously I can say what I read. I think the overriding factor is from the input from the UK and other territories that are working incredibly hard on getting a vaccine. I don't think there's been any progress like it. I mean, the resourcing and the effort that's going in from these researchers is outstanding to try and deliver a vaccine as quickly as possible. From what I read, I think they are closer to the end of that process. There are some very, very encouraging trials which they are trying to accelerate and are already well underway. And depending what journal you happen to read, we are very hopeful of something towards the end of this year, maybe into the beginning of the first quarter of next year. But who knows? Very complicated scientific work, and I guess we're all putting our hope and blessings out to those people to find that vaccine for us.
That's right. That is the conversation right here on Eagle FM, talking about how the COVID-19 is directly impacting economies, most importantly the British economy, South African and Namibian economy, and also putting into context the gambling industry, which is one industry that is a growing one right here in Namibia. Mr. Greg Saint, I really want to appreciate you, sir, for taking this time to speak with us all the way from Britain.
No problem at all. It's been my pleasure, and my thoughts are always with Africa, because obviously I'm fortunate enough to bring an event there, and we are still doing that because whilst we are unable to attend this year in October, we will be taking the event digital, so it will be online for all those important operators to interact with lawmakers, suppliers, legislators of all types, to really have all the information available to them for when they fully push the button and open for business.
That's right. And do you have a good one?